thank you for coming. I just wanted to introduce myself as Mia, founder of United Community Change, and let you guys know that we're just so happy to have all these wonderful individuals on the stage. We wanted to have a discussion with those individuals who are minority leaders, boots on the ground, working in the community, trying to bring the community together, creating many activities, especially in the realm of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So the conversation piece that we're having today is meant to kind of create a bond between us all, also get to know exactly what is it that you're doing in the community, and as well promote how can we work together and how can we create stronger connections with one another so we can kind of impact the things that we're doing on a larger scale. United Community Change, Justin Pippins right here is going to give us our mission.
Yes, I'm Justin Pippins. I'm a member of the Multicultural Business Association. So like Mia said, United Community Change's mission is to promote community, diversity, equity, and inclusion, encourage self-sufficiency and self-esteem in the African American, people of color, and socially disadvantaged communities. Promote strengthening the community by providing access to healthier food, talent diversity, safe housing, and advancing racial equity. So just glad everybody could be here today.
Thank you. And I'm just going to give you guys, before we start, just a couple of things that United Community Change is doing, so that if you guys would like to volunteer, volunteer opportunities or get involved with our organization. The very first thing that started United Community Change is our backyard garden programs. We would like to get minorities and disadvantaged groups, low-income individuals in the community involved with connecting back to their roots, back into the garden and into the soil, learning where your food sources come from, and then also growing food for your families to decrease your expenses so that you can encourage yourself to be empowered for your family. The second thing that we are doing, we do have a young youth coding program in order to fight equity in the computer science programs so that we can raise our young up so that they are competitive against the individuals that are out here in the world when they grow up. We all know that our individual youth have things that they have to fight against. The one thing that they shouldn't fight against is the competitive market in the working world, because that's how they have to survive. So we just want to kind of fill in that. The third thing, exciting thing that we have going on is our Juneteenth Freedom Walk celebration, and I'm so excited for that. This is our third year, and we're looking for a lot of participation, especially from our college students and our young youth. We will be having a DEI run that morning, June the 18th, from 7 to 10, and then we will have our Freedom Walk celebration, and it'll be a water balloon fight, some speakers, just a lot of fun over at Jordan Valley Ice Park between 11 and 5. And that night we have a music festival between 6 and 9 p.m. We have 3 bands, 2 local and 1 coming from North Carolina. And we just hope you guys, come and enjoy that with us.
All right, sounds like a lot of great things happening at United Community Change.
Absolutely, I'm excited.
This event today is taking place at Timmons Hall. So if you guys could check out Timmons Hall, make a donation, whatever you can do to support this place, please do.
Absolutely. Support our sponsors, Timmons Hall, Hammer Enterprises, and Wendy's. Also, big shout out to Big Mamas for sending us burritos and coffee this morning for our panelists. So let's go ahead and get started. We want to introduce all of our guests. So we want to let's start over here with Janessa. Tell us who you are, what you're trying to do in the community, and what type of impact you would like to make here.
Okay. Yes, my name is Janessa Crockett. So right now where my start is with my work. I do work with Jordan Valley, so we're starting to do a lot of outreach with the community, with the African American community, on my own with community chats, and building that bridge for to open the door for minorities to be welcome and feel more welcome to come into the clinic, because there is quite a history and some health disparities that we would like to maintain. So that's what I'm doing and we're also working on some things to make the employees or whatever as well. So, and I'm working with the team on that. We're getting some things together.
Can you get into that a little bit?
With
Just making the employees feel more?
So we've got some things we're starting on behavior health, and we're in infant stages.
Yes.
But but some things that I am personally doing on the side, I'm working with. We do have a medical assisting and a dental assisting program that we have there as well. I do know that OTC and all these a lot of the other colleges have that. But I'm hoping to work. I've spoken with like Grupo Latino Americana. Spoke with Yolanda, and then I'm working with Ambi. I spoke with Ambi Lewis about that because I think that is a great free program that we have, and I think it's a good way to help also diversify our medical and dental assisting staff, because I felt like that information wasn't getting to communities like our African American communities and our Hispanic communities and other communities that we tend to be like word of mouth and close knit. Right. But I also felt it was more geared towards the younger generation, like our high schoolers. And Ambi's program I felt was great for that. The DACA program is great for that. If they're, especially if things kept in line and everything like that, because we know that there could be some intricacies with that. So that's what I'm working with those programs, with talking and trying to get interest in those and getting those numbers up and getting more people of color and other things that are other realms with diversity. But it always starts to be with people of more color, but there's other realms of diversity that but that's where I'm doing without working with things that we've got going.
Well, great. Well, welcome to the conversation. We look forward to your perspective and the conversation that we're having today.
Thank you for having me.
Hello everyone, my name is April Myers. I am currently a second year graduate assistant working at Missouri State University in the Career Center, doing a lot of outreach, particularly to our underrepresented, historically minoritized groups on campus, as well as student services, so helping with resumes, cover letters, pretty much all of that job preparation help. A lot of my work right now is through mentorship and as well as getting our black and brown students more acclimated to the Springfield, Missouri community, because when they come from these urban areas, it's really hard to get adjusted, especially you're coming from a well-diverse community, or you have all of your people close knit to you, and so I know how it feels to come to Springfield, especially coming from the north suburban area of Chicago, Illinois, and so I think that helping students get acclimated is pretty much my role right now.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Justin?
I'm Justin Pippins. Like I said, I'm in my Multicultural Business Association. We have monthly meetings, and they move around different places. Our president right now is Wes Pratt, and he's here. He'll be participating in our second panel discussion. Our new executive director is Darlene Mabins. She comes from the banking industry, and so I'm just glad to be here. And like I said, to provide more opportunities for our black folks that are here in Springfield, that are doing things, that are staying around here, want to be a part of this community. I'm glad to be here to help out.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you absolutely for being co-host today. So we're looking forward to what you have to say.
Next.
My turn?
Yeah.
Sequoia.
How you doing, everybody? My name is Sequoia Hodges. I am from Springfield originally, so that kind of ties back to my objective. I've worked with Missouri State University as the Ambassador of Multicultural Services to provide resources for students in the Multicultural Center and create events for diverse students. I've also worked at Foster Adopt Connect with at-risk youth, and I worked for the Boys and Girls Club for 7 years, and the former president of Bridge Springfield's Brother to Brother organization, also known as SOB, which is the Student African American Brotherhood, which goes to increase the retention rate of African American males and minorities. So I say all that because my background is from Springfield and wanting to be there for other students who didn't have growing up and fought to get where they are today. And the big thing for me was having somebody else in the community put their hand down and provide mentorship for me. So I just want to be that mentor for another student, another child, wherever I can, to help get them to where they would like to be. So
I'm sorry, so can you expand a little bit on SOB and the mentorship? things like that?
Yeah, so SOB, the Student African American Brotherhood, our CEO is Dr. Tyrone Bledsoe, great addition to the Springfield community. What we have done is create roles and mentorships for other students. So one of the great things about the organization when I was a part of it as president, we had people from the community who were lawyers, who were doctors, policemen, all different occupations, to give you that first-hand look at these are the steps it takes to get to where you're wanting to go, whatever career path it is. And that was a great thing, because if we have people that are in the community doing those things, we have people that can show us how to do it.
Yeah.
You know, one arm up, one arm down, being able to help the next person while somebody else is there helping each other.
And they recently moved the headquarters here to Springfield. So,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
it's a big
it's
deal.
great. I think it's a great addition to Springfield, and especially for young black and brown boys.
And the headquarters
We have these
is
resources.
where exactly?
Where it's located downtown near the square. Forgive me for not forgetting the name of the building.
It's the Missouri State Building.
Okay, cool. Fantastic. Well, you're a dynamic individual. I see you all the time in the community, so keep up the great work. I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys say today.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad you stayed around there too, for sure.
Alrighty, my turn.
Yes.
My name is Tony Gunn Jr. And in this capacity today, I am the founder of the project, founder of Project You Belong, in which our mission is to plant and cultivate the seed in the mind of young men and boys of color, that they are afforded the same opportunity as the rest of society. And we do that through literary expressions and talks about mental health.
Expand, because I know you got more to say.
I was gonna say that.
Expand, tell us about, deep in your heart, exactly what you want to talk about as far as, mental health and how you want to bring those young people in.
Well, when I look at kind of everything that's involved, it just brings me back to how I was brought up and what I went through and what I wish I was involved in, or kind of the helping hand I could have had when I was growing up.
Right.
So, kind of piggybacking off what Corey said, just being in that mental capacity. I can talk all day about it, but
We're going to get into it. We're going to get into it at the top.
You're recently SBJ Man of the Year or something like
Yes,
that,
sir.
right?
Yeah.
And there's some recurring things that keep coming up around mentorship.
absolutely.
We're all talking about mentorship, and so I think
and
that's
mental health as well.
mental health as well. Yeah.
All right.
All right. My name is Zach Troutman. I'm the founder of Follow Leader, and like my boy said, really our mission with Follow Leader is just removing the stigma surrounding mental health. From South Florida, and just moving out here to go to school at Evangel. It was a culture shock.
Big time.
And I wasn't, for whatever reason, just in the environment that I grew up in, you never talked about how you feel. With both of my parents being incarcerated, my grandparents did everything they could. But the age gap and just my grandma trying to take care of all my dad's kids, it was just a lot of things that we missed out on. And being fortunate enough for God to put some amazing people in my life, I ended up losing my best friend to suicide. And we serve a God that makes no mistakes, and so trying to take the most tragic event in my life and help somebody else not feel what we felt that day, and so turn that into Follow Leader. And so just travel and try to spread this message about mental health and remove the stigma, try to normalize the conversation, create safe spaces. And so what I've seen a lot too is just in black and brown boys, especially in school, they rather be the class clown than the class dummy. So we don't say we don't know things. And so teaching kids to have the confidence to say, I don't know it, but I'll figure it out, instead of acting out and then getting out of class. And that's why we have these studies on the pipeline from the schools to prisons and stuff. And so really my goal is to just get connected. I'm not from here, and I used to think God's calling me back home. But now my wife and I have 2 kids, and my mentor said, you're not from here, but your kids are being raised here, so you need to get connected. So the last 2 years immersing myself into the community and being unapologetic, because I think a lot of times where we go, there are people who look like us. And I'm covered in tattoos, but if I wear a suit and tie, I got a master's degree, and so, but ain't nobody else at the table looking like me, so how can I pull people to the table that actually want to share their hearts and that want to grind? And so that's really what Follow Leader has been, and that has created opportunities for me to do other things that I'm sure I'll get into. So I'm just fortunate enough to be here, man. I'm not from here, but I've been here for a long time.
How long you been here?
Since when that crazy ice storm happened, because I almost left.
10 years?
10 years.
Oh yeah, you from Springfield.
Oh, that's 07. You broke down.
No, but
Go back before they went no way.
I saw you just recently did a mental health event with Daniel Oganyemi.
Yeah.
Can you kind of talk about that?
So, again, those connections. I'm a certified QPR instructor, and so being able to put on events for people that look like us, and more importantly, like diversity. Like we got a shared experience, or people who think like us, to be able to know to pick up on the sign. Because again, I'm 34 years old. I ain't never said the word suicide until my buddy died. Like we ain't never talk about that ever. And even when I got the call, I'm thinking the police killed him, or he got killed doing something in the street. So I wasn't even able to process that. So being able to help facilitate those conversations about what are some telltale signs, because our children, our young people are under attack, and it's a scary time. And being a dad to a 9 and 7-year-old, it's my duty that they love themselves. And you got social media. Like when I was going to school, we had MySpace. There was one person in the hood with internet. There was only one person in the hood with internet. Everybody can't log on because Michelle couldn't come home. So we didn't even have that. And now these kids have phones, iPads, tablets, to where they're getting
Full access.
all this stuff, and it's challenging. So
while we're on that topic, Zach, since you are not from here, let's go ahead and ask, do you feel included in this community, and what obstacles have you had to overcome?
That's a great question.
I wasn't even trying to be included, honestly, for a certain while, just because when I was young, we got this Florida swag. I ain't from Missouri.
It's different.
But then it's like, man, there's a calling on my life, and life ain't never gonna be easy, but it'll be easier if I could just get in line with what that was. And so to be a leader, obviously a husband and father, but to be a leader, to help elevate not even just black and brown people, but people that are from the struggle, however that may look. Because I'm from South Florida, but across the bridge is top 5 richest cities in the United States. So I had never seen a poor white person. And then I'm finishing my master's, and I'm at Reed, and all of these white students, they ain't eating on the weekend.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, dang, I didn't even know there was poor white people, and that's how just boxed in I was. But I think that I wasn't trying to be included, but then once I started putting myself out there, unfortunately, I ran into a lot of obstacles with people that look like me.
In this community.
So that was hard, because again, I'm from Florida, we can go handle this, dog. But then it's like, okay, that ain't getting us nowhere. That's letting the other side win. And I had to realize, I don't need, and I shared this with you, once I realized, I'm not after popularity, I'm after purpose. And that was what really, my trajectory went upward. And I was able to just focus, hey man, I feel passionate about this. This is the purpose. Here I am. I don't necessarily need everybody to follow me. And y'all know how it is. Once you get there, people are like, oh,
start following you like crazy.
So I think there was a lot. And you playing football here, training with guys, you build relationships through athletics. But then when you're trying to do something that's not has nothing to do with sports, it's hard for guys to
get involved,
get support, but also be vulnerable, because it's I'm not catching a touchdown.
Well, let's see. How does this feel? Let me go to April, because you're in a college atmosphere, and being on college college, sometimes it's like being in a whole nother world. So, and kind of you live in that world and don't go outside of it. So how have you fit in? Like, do you feel like this community outside of college campus and those you mingle with there, is the community embracing you? Do you feel like you fit in, or are you still trying to find your way?
I think so. I first came to Springfield, Missouri in June 2016 in our remedial program, pretty much for those who don't meet the benchmarking. So pretty much you don't have like the ACT and or maybe the GPA to get into Missouri State. Entering that program really helped me honestly establish myself with leaders like Sequoia Hodges over here, who actually was my SOAR leader. And so just getting connected with those ground level leaders, first of all, just introduced me to a number of other Black and brown individuals who helped me, I guess, kind of like move into, you know, what is it, like what is Springfield to you, and how do you want to walk this campus? Do you want to just stay within your bubble and this is just, you know, like you're pretty much to yourself, or you find other Chicago individuals, you know, within that campus, and then you navigate from there? Well, in my case, I was the only, besides one other person that I know of who came to Missouri State from actually my high school. And so just having to navigate, like, we came from the same high school, but we still don't necessarily communicate with each other, but it's nice to know that you're here in case I need anybody to, you know, relate to in that favor. But just over time, just finding out, you know, are there things that connect to my interests within Springfield, Missouri that I might be able to bridge my connections to or my experiences with? And so, especially Minorities in Business, which now have a changed name, Multicultural Business Association, pretty much helped me get my feet wet with other adult actual leaders. And so I feel like I've actually been able to blend in quite well within the Springfield community, especially knowing like who is for me, who's here to help me, especially, and who can open my mind to other opportunities within the community. So I would say that it's been pretty easy in my case. And I think if you have the attitude of coming in with an open mind and also just being willing to learn from individuals, being willing to ask those questions, you know, like, what's a good food spot in Springfield? Or, you know, what do you recommend for people like me to get into?
I have a question. So do you feel like being new here, are people approaching you, or do you feel like you have to be the initiator?
I think it's both. I think once you establish yourself or you kind of make a name for yourself, you get approached, but it also takes you to approach those people who are also well known within the community, because there's just so much to explore here. And also, I mean, Springfield is developing. It is developing, especially within our like ice rink area. And so just like kind of realizing like who are the players in the community, how can they help me, but also how can I help them?
Thank you. So, Sequoia, you know, what is diversity, equity, and inclusion? Like, what does that mean to you, and where do you fit in it?
All right.
Dropping bombs on you.
Yeah, no, first thought that comes to my mind is the word diversity, I feel like can be scary to people. I remember working the tables at Missouri State, and my sign on my table said diversity and inclusion, multicultural. And I'd see people come by and they, you know, have the free candy. They like take the candy, look at the sign, like, oh, and continue walking. hello, you know, and they keep going. But I think it's something that we need to embrace. So for me, it just means having an open mind to other cultures, other backgrounds, you know, and not being intimidated or afraid of the things that you don't know. You know, we are all the same. So when we're talking about diversity, you know, we include everybody, because Springfield is a melting pot. There's a lot of backgrounds here, and this is our community. This is our city. You know, we all who live here are a part of this community. So, and where I fit in this, I'm a part of this community. I'm another person trying to you know, be a part of the developing change. So, and that just means doing whatever I can.
Yeah, so to expound on that, you're in Republic now.
I am.
And Republic just got, you know, Amazon warehouse.
Yeah, it's growing. It's growing.
Republic used to be the woods.
Yeah, you know, I was trying to say it without saying it. Find the words. She was saying it, you know. At first, it was kind of scary to get about moving to Republic because I think at first, like, this is a white city.
Yeah.
Like, you know, my daddy even made jokes like, "You going out there to Republic? You careful." You know, but it really hasn't been like that, and I'm so grateful for that. It's a great city, and it kind of makes me think more about the change that is coming and has been happening in Springfield into Republic. You know, I see a lot of people with different backgrounds in Walmart. You know, when you see somebody else, you're like, "Oh, what's up, man?" Like, y'all both instantly get that look at each other, like, "Oh, you here too?" You know, so I feel like more and more that we are changing and growing. We're seeing the diversity come up, but main point, I just want us to not be afraid of it.
Yeah, and you know, diversity, I mean, so with United Community Change, we're trying to bring everyone together, because diversity is not just who you see on this panel. Diversity includes everyone. I mean, our population is like, what, about 70% Caucasian. You know, we have Mexicans in our population, we have Asians heavy on Missouri State University campus. These people need to be included. And so when we talk about diversity, we're not just talking about how can you focus on more on Black people, right? Why is that so important? Who want to pick on Janessa?
Well, that hits me personally as well with my kids being Afro-Latino as well, because my kids are part Mexican. But I also want to go to a deeper than that. Diversity is more than color too. It's also disabilities, and then and so there's a lot of realms that go into diversity. But that also includes like the inclusion thing. So why we want to include it, because you get the different aspects in different areas, and when you include everyone, you know, because like I said, we all have our own individuality, but when you add to that, you add, you know, to the culture. I mean, you bring so much to that. So it's important to learn, and it's important to bring that. I always feel like once you get people of different mindsets, that's how you bring forth change.
Right.
That's what diversity is. That's what equality is, and equity is bringing forth those changes because of those different mindsets. So when you bring in those different mindsets from different cultures, from different things that's embedded in diversity. That's not just always culture too, and people of different minority backgrounds with different other things that may come from diverse. Because you can also have diversity amongst people of the same race. Because I've experienced that, like when you talked about that. I'm called County Brownie, and I live right in the St. Louis area city, and I'm like, I'm from where y'all from? But I mean, there's different things that you know that come with diversity. So when you bring those different mindsets, that's how you bring forth change with diversity, because of different thought process.
I want to inject the word inclusion into the conversation. Does that, we're talking about diversity, is inclusion the same thing? Is it different?
I think there's a difference, because you can be diverse, but then you cannot feel included. So when so take for example, I was talking when they asked us at Jordan Valley, the African American population, for Black History Month, what we wanted to do for Black History Month. They could have just asked us and just took the idea and not included what that looked like. So that makes a difference, because it makes you feel special. When you actually grab those ideas and implement those ideas to help see the change through the process. You know, I mean, I know that you have to have like levels of people in order to make those changes. It does trickle down to even the everyday person. But when you include the everyday person in a conversation with the CEO, that makes that person that you asked about that change feel like they're gonna actually see those changes and actually implement, you know, their ideas.
So, to your point, you're talking about all these things happening at Jordan Valley. Are you seeing that from the leadership? And is it trickling down, to your point?
Well, those conversations come up because I'm a person that's going to actually talk about those things, and I've expressed that. I don't hide that, because you can't talk about diversity and say you want to have diversity and change inside a company and not actually talk about the meat and, the grits and the meat that comes with it. And those things come with it. You have to have people that look at you, that look like you, actually in those positions. And if they're not going to be in those positions, you have to at least have someone, and I mentioned that, you have to at least have someone right under you that's, if you say yes, then I told them, then I'll be willing to do the work. Let me do the work. But if you got, if you tell me yes and don't have the time to do the work, give me the work.
Yeah.
Right.
And let me do it.
Let you handle it, because you obviously you have firsthand experience of what's needed and what's out there. Whereas someone who's looking out like, okay, how can I help you? It's like taking you're taking an order, and instead of, making that burger, like, I know I need cheese.
Right.
It's like, maybe I'll give them cheese because that's what they asked for.
Right. Right.
You made a good point though, because you said, I'm so sorry to cut you off, but you said, you'll do the work.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times in this community, we get people who say yes to things, and they already are juggling 4 or 5 different things when it comes to inclusion and diversity. It has to be the right person, and you can't have all this other stuff on your plate if you want to have impact.
Yeah.
You gotta be focused.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that Jordan Valley isn't, and
No, it's great.
my leader, he definitely came to me, and we were talking about things that we were doing. Here's another thing I want to add to that. I can believe one thing personally, and it can carry over into my career, and he can believe another thing personally.
Yeah.
But when he supports what I feel is great for the community, it works for the community, that's all that matters.
Right.
And he supports. He came to me personally and said, Janessa, I like what we were talking about doing when I went to work with the Pitch Chapel and what our community chats and stuff like that, because he knows that's right for the community, and it's what's right to build that bridge.
And that's inclusion, right? Like, you're not looking, when you go to someone, you're not looking for them to change their mind to what you want. You just want them to take your perspective and take that in considerations for, like, hey, this is going to affect me this way. Are you thinking about that?
Right.
Tony, when you talk about, let's talk about equity. What does that mean to you? And are you getting what you need from this community in order to feel like there's equity to do things that you need to do in the community?
I'm going to backtrack for a second.
Go ahead.
I completely agree with the inclusion, conversation, diversity. I want to make a note on that for a second. I defer slightly because I really think it's more of a phased approach. And I think for certain situations and certain phases, there needs to be, the diversity needs to be of people of color with ranging minds, age, experience, skills, education, but it's certain conversations need to happen on that ground level by our people, for our people, before we let in opposing or corresponding views, and then we take that forward and then analyze afterwards and make adjustments.
You bring up a good point, because that was a question that I had on our questionnaire that was, do you feel like people use other aspects of diversity in front of allowing themselves to make the diversity in race a big issue? Does that make sense? Like, so as we talk about, we have diversity and disabilities, diversity in thoughts, political diversity, but then we have diversity in race. And they say, since we, are diverse in these other parts, then we diverse in that. Like, we don't have to talk about that. That's just minute, because we got other people to be diverse about. Is that what you're saying? In a way?
Yeah.
Speak on it.
No, you're right, but
argue with me. You can argue with me. Y'all can pitch in.
You're right. It's like I said, it's more just the main point was just the phases. You're absolutely right about the different ranges and diversity. It's just more of a phase, because a lot of the stuff can get in the way because it's different views and different viewpoints.
Right.
You have a certain type of levels within progression. It's just not, that ain't what's important right now.
Right.
To get to this next step. Sometimes stuff needs to get babied up.
Right.
Before you implement other things. But back to equity.
Yeah, she asked you about equity.
And feel free. I just want the panel to know, like, if somebody says something and you have a question about what they're saying, feel free to, ask them and clarify what you need, for you amongst the panel. Like, don't wait for me to call your name. We ain't gotta do that.
No, I agree with what he said, but I also think there's a time and a space for that. I work in the health field, so we have to consider those things.
Yeah.
But I will say that we notice, and I notice, and I have, believe me, sometimes I've been in a space where I had to tell people, I know I'm the token black people here and that person here, and if I have to be that in order to make the change, then that's fine. I've been that on the board that I was on. But I have, where I am in the health field, I said, I'm gonna speak up for my people, and they come to me. But sometimes I do have to make sure I play those other things, because within the African American community, we think about it, there are also lack of knowledge and resources for some of the lack of development when it comes to ADHD, when it comes to behavioral health, when it comes to disability. So I have to make sure I hit all those realms. So when they do come to me, either as patients, and when we have providers come in, because we're looking for more behavioral health providers, so I may be talking about some stuff like that, because that's where we hit first, both of you guys. But so I have to make sure I hit all of those areas, so when they come to me in all those aspects, I'm ready. I'm ready for the black provider, and I'm also ready for the person, the people, the person of color as a patient as well. So I have to hit all of those aspects. But you're right, and time and the space is where it's relevant. We do have to make sure we're protecting our own.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And see, that's a good example, because just like it's strictly, well, not strictly, but people of color, we're diversing in our skills, and you're able to see that red tape is set up within that health field and help others navigate around it and through it. So, around it, and go through it a lot. But it's a lot of red tape around, and being diverse in those skills and different trades on certain topics like that, without having not really the outside of others, but just those other viewpoints in at those.
So going back to equity, where we have to lift the individuals who haven't had the resources that they need up, so that they can compete at the same level as everyone else in our community. Why is that important? Is that important? Is that a thing? Do you feel like, you can pass the baton on this question. It's okay not to know the answer. But, tell me your views on that, on equity.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to this analogy I've seen that stuck with me. It was more so about, I think you like the shortest one up here. So I'll give you the same mountain bike, and I give you the same mountain bike. Is that equity? Y'all both got the same size mountain bike. Same wheels, 28 inches.
Well, now his legs gonna push that bike
triple
stronger.
gold D's.
GPS at the top, throw some gold on there. Yeah, I got the same bike. But you 5'4", 2.
And I'm 6'1", so I get the analogy.
What might work for him
for the books.
Just because you're getting some of them the same thing, same size, same as the next person, don't mean y'all gonna be on the same level or be able to strive forward on your same progression. But if everybody else got any comments on it?
Are we saying what they do with it? Is that what we're getting at? Because they both have the same bike, But are we saying because of his ability, he is able to go further?
If it gets dark, just tap the screen.
Because when I think about that a little bit, maybe he got the mountain bike, but her bike came with 2 flat tires.
Right.
But a lot of times,
chain don't work, pop off every time. Same bike.
But a lot of times, and especially in corporate and other just society-facing organizations, they think because everybody got the same thing.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to benefit the same way.
Yes.
Same
Yeah.
outcome.
Speak up.
I like the analogy of the fence.
The fence, yeah.
With the different boxes.
With the different boxes. So
Yeah.
it's like some people just need a little more.
Boost, yeah. Yeah, and I like what you said, support. Like, is the tire flat? Is your route? Are you going over here in the woods and they get the straight shot? Like, sometimes we gotta identify. Just because you have the same bike doesn't mean it's really the same bike. Like,
That's like I had a meeting yesterday, and so we were talking about our meeting, and so they were like, they had a view on something, and they were like, well, we don't know how to integrate because we're, like I said, we're in infant stages, and so we didn't know how to bring diversity into the program, and there's things we don't see, and they're both Caucasian, and I said, well, I see this every day. I live with this, and that's what we're talking about. Just because we're here and we're talking in the same room and you all don't know, I said, I may not be on the level of some of these people we're bringing in, but I can basically tell you that the ideas that they're going to bring to this table are probably going to line up from what I see in that experience compared to you. And it's nothing against them. I said, it's nothing against you. I'm not saying I'm over you and I know more. I said, but I've experienced it. And so that's what you guys are saying. Just because we're sitting here, we're having this conversation, you all don't know, and I'm new to, bringing it into doesn't mean I've never experienced that. I've experienced that every single day, and I'm telling you, other people are coming to me that they're experiencing here. So we have to really do this. Like, this is not a game.
So I think particularly when we're talking about equity, especially versus equality is pretty much giving those individuals the same thing and just expecting that, you're gonna get the same outcome. You're gonna produce the same everything, same advantages. You got it. Whereas equity, we're ultimately looking at how can I best help you be most efficient and to produce what we may envision as an ideal outcome. And if that means that you need a taller box for you to stand on, here's that taller box, where somebody might not need a box that is as big or as much resources. And so it's ultimately paying attention to what do you need within this moment in order for me to help you be more successful. And so anybody can answer this question, what do we need? Like, what do we need? What do you need, support? What do you need, Zach? Like, what does the community need to give us in order to be successful leaders, in order to feel knowledgeable, feel like that we can sit at the table, go to these meetings, that we might feel like we're inadequate to step into that space? Like, what have we not said that the community needs to know about?
Well, I feel like off the top that when it comes to what we need is individualized question. Because what I need is going to be different than what Tony needs, than what Zach needs. Because we all have our own goals that we're trying to get to, in our own ways. So what we need is going to be different to build those blocks. But the thing about it is that all of us, depending on what we need, be able to have those resources, be able to have those connections, those networks to do that. Because we're talking about furthering our community. So whatever it is, I don't have to, what I'm doing is not better than what he's doing, better than what anyone else is doing. I'm doing what I can do, what I'm able to do. And that's enough. And that's enough. Sometimes we get wrapped up that I'm doing this and I'm doing it more than you or this person. And that's not it. I'm doing what I can do, And if I can help out Zach, that's what it's about. That's a resource, vice versa, resource back to me. We can help each other rather than looking like what can I get from somewhere else or what, no.
And you make a good point, like 2 points that you make that I want to expand on. The first point is that individuals need to look at us as individuals and not as a pod. Like, if I'm helping Janessa, then I've helped Mia. Or if I helped Justin, I've helped Zach.
I gave it to the black community. Everybody got it.
Well, what they do with it is like, no.
We gave them some grants. There's some grant money. There you go.
The $5,000 is going to help your organization, but what's that going to do for over here? Like, nothing. We still trying to get where we're trying to go. So I'm so glad you said that, and people need to acknowledge that, individualism in everybody needs to count when you approach them. Like, you need to ask them what they need, and you need to ask them where their mindset is for the particular situation, because, and I'm just going to go a little political here, like, every black person is not Democratic, okay? And we need to accept that, and we need to accept that every individual minority does not hate Trump, and 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 that's just, and I'm saying that on the extreme, just so that people get the extreme measures on how individualism works. The second thing that you talked about was how we can partner with each other, and how if you can help out that person, you will. You can only do what the skills and talents that you have that you can increase the community by. And so how we need to actually partner and get to know one another so that we can handle the times that, you know what, that's out of my realm. I need you right now to fill in where you do best. Instead of saying, you know what, it's a boy out there. He doing all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Nah, I'm gonna do what he do because I need that crowd. Like, what's the point? Because we're all here to help the community as a whole. And I mean, that's the purpose of this panel right now. So that we can know who do we go to? Who gives us that help?
You know what? Since you went political and stuff, I'm gonna throw critical race theory out there and see if anybody wants to
pause for a second. Before we jump on, I don't want to get to answering that. So let's do check for a second.
Okay.
I will say this as a blanket. I feel like the community still needs to be more supportive and invest more. Just as a blanket answer.
I like that.
And can you expand on that? Expand on that. Like, invest more into what? Like, exactly, give what? Because it's a big thing.
I can tell you too.
You can go after him.
Well, Mama, whoop me up. I didn't let you go first.
Okay. So particularly what calls me is like education, and then also I think like with education is just bringing awareness. So I think usually, if we're comfortable being within our bubbles, I'm comfortable in my bubble and life is good. It doesn't affect me. When in reality, the things, especially, political scale too, like this does affect people. The fact that we have rising prices on milk, gas, cars, et cetera, that affects all of us in different capacities, of course. But I think, how we can help, especially working with each other and filling in those gaps by doing partnerships with one another is, we need to help people gain knowledge and to gain the awareness of, this is a conflict of interest, or, maybe I don't know a lot about this, and maybe, I have to ask these questions. And if you don't feel comfortable asking those questions, if you have somebody that is comfortable to ask those questions, to ask them for those individuals. So a lot of camaraderie as well as education and awareness.
About the investing and support from the community. So we're in the age now to that, like you said, the diversity and inclusion and mental health. These have become buzzwords, and now it's getting written into the laws and getting written into the grants for buzzwords to fit categories. Cool, but there's still, so not to say we don't need the money as a whole, or the support as a whole, because it's needed. That's what's going to fund it. That's what it takes certain people who can do what they can do and be able to move out of that 9 to 5 and do more of what they can do, or be more efficient at what they do. To move out those other spaces. So not to say you're a chef at a restaurant, but if you're a chef at a restaurant and your passion is in outreach and touching youth, but you got to do chef to pay your 9 to 5 and take care of your family, that's the disconnect, and that's what the problem, because you got to, as far as the individual approach, your time and your resources have to be more on that side for your family. I'm glad you said that.
Personally, I could use myself in that because like I'm a single mother, 3 children, I have to work, and still I'm trying to assist this community, with the resources that I have, which is like compared to some people out here. And sometimes, not outside of just say, hey, these things are available, people could say that, but it's like, have I heard about them? Have you led me to it? Are you going to help me create that? Like I'm personally, I'll get, real transparent here, as far as like our programs, it's like, hey, I need to know how to put this proposal together. I need to know how to write up a program so that grant is going to come to me.
Yes.
It being there is one thing.
Right.
Knowing how to access that is another. And having the proper steps provided to me and my team and how, you know, being given the confidence, like, hey, you know, you can do that, and we have a team of people ready to take you on with that without embarrassing you.
Boom. That's the big one. I've been in situations where I was expected to know how to do it.
Yes.
You know, my questions made me feel ignorant, you know. And, you know, well, let me say dumb, because ignorance is just the absence of knowing. So I felt dumb that I didn't, and it embarrassed me, and it made me not want to speak up as much, you know. I went and tried to look for those answers by myself. Yes, everything is online, but how much better would it have been if I would have made a connection with that person and they taught me something, you know, than belittled me.
Yeah, like who was embracing?
It stopped, you know, progression that, you know.
Yeah, so Boy and I were talking about that earlier. I mean that is very important to be able to share and pass along and bring up, like he was saying, they hand up and, you know, and bring people up. I mean, that is stifling to someone. I mean, because at one point that was me. You know, at one point I didn't think I could be in rooms with people or in spaces with people, just because maybe I didn't have the educational background. But I mean, I was always well spoken. I grew up in a home well spoken, but I still felt I didn't have the mental capacity or the intelligence or maybe the vernacular of some people. But then, you know, like you said, you would sit in a conversation and hear people say certain things. I'm like, I can't. You know? But then there's always something that I've always felt like I had that I could pass along, and I make sure I do that. You can pass something along to someone for free. You know, and why can't we do that? And that's how it should always be. You know, we like, and I was talking to Tony, I'm like, we literally are neglecting younger people who will one day take over where we were once those young people by not passing on, like you said, the skills. They don't know how to do resumes. I was just talking with my mom earlier today. She was talking about young boys coming in and young girls, they don't know how to write. They don't know how to capitalize first and last name. You know, there's simple things like that. So eventually we run into, it's going to be worse than not even knowing how to do, like, you know, things that, where are our leaders going to come in after us? So we should learn how, you know, learning how to do grants, learning how to, that should be passed along to people like us, you know, at certain points, you know, so that we can.
And so that brings us to the, you know, like minority leaders. Like, what does that mean to us as young, boots on the ground minority leaders? You know, Zach, you know, we had a conversation about, you know, talking to individuals that we felt like represented even us, and I just want to put that out there because it's not just those who don't look like us that we have issues with, you know, like we have to go against what we expect out of our own, and if that's not given to us, then that's going to keep us from going to the next level to those who may not look like us. So like, what is, as being a minority leader, how is that important? How is diversity, equity, inclusion even in our own spaces?
I guess I ain't said none of the minutes, so. No,
I
mean, and we talked about this. I just think that, like, I have you know, traveling and speaking and stuff. I've like turned down a lot of speaking gigs that were gonna make me talk about diversity, race, and stuff because like this is an everyday thing for me. And a lot of these places, you're booking me as a reaction to the murder of George Floyd. Like, this is not
traumatic.
This is not something that y'all are being intentional about. It's just a box that you gotta check. And so I needed a break. But Dr. Anderson at Missouri State, she's been so good to me. She needed something, and so I was like, you know what, I'll do it. But I think I'm so much more passionate about why someone that looks like me don't like me. You don't even know me. And so those are the conversations. You know, I don't care about racist Bob across the street. I care about my brother Tony not wanting to work together. My brother Corey not understanding. I'm passionate, I'm not being combative, I'm not emotional. Why can't we be in this space and elevate each other? Because I think we're like the only, well, I don't want to say we're the only, but the one that matters to me, our group of people that don't really work together, we're not sharing these ideas, investments, whatever, because it's like something simple like life insurance. I watch my family. Then people still not talking. My granny passed away 10 years ago. over $10,000. That's not a lot of money. But everybody think that money went here or here. I got people that have not spoken. Over 10 racks.
Yeah, nothing.
And it's like, first of all, why didn't Granny have no life insurance? Why is we trying to put together money to bury her? She literally raises the whole block. And it's like something small like that, bro, you can't even give me 45 minutes of your time to talk about putting in $17 a month. So if something do happen to you or your children, your spouse, y'all will be taken care of, and this is gonna set the next generation up. And it's like, hold up. I was 21 before somebody talked to me about that, you know?
Yeah.
And I was 16 before somebody said, hey, you don't have to go to the NFL, you don't have to be a rapper.
Yes.
And I'm like, hold up. You can go get a piece of paper that'll give you a job that'll pay you enough money to go do what my daddy done been doing. Oh, that's cool. And nobody gonna try to kill me? All right, maybe I can look at that, but being a mentor with Big Brothers Big Sisters, we're out here, and I don't know, I haven't looked at the census, but I know the last time I did, we're like at 4%.
We gained 10,000 diverse residents in the new one, in this area.
Okay, so what are we at, 6%?
Probably about 4.1.
Okay. I also think that like it's important because a lot of people think, you know, I came from this urban community in South Florida, but I didn't have a black mentor. Every black person that was in my life was a drug dealer. They were good people.
Yeah.
This is like, my dad is a great dude, but
Yeah, it's a vibe.
this is what he's doing. My mom was a great person, but this is what she was doing. My brothers are great people, but it's like when you talk about equity, like for me, give me a chance and a choice, and I'm gonna do it because I'm just built like that. Like there's something inside of me that wants so much more for my sons, but also their friends. That like I'm gonna go get it, dog. I'm gonna go grind. And the boys and Big Brothers Big Sisters told me they hadn't had a black mentor come through their program in like years. And
let me ask you about that, because I mean we're going to run out of time here, and I got a couple of questions I really want to ask. Like one, and you could just say yes or no. Did they come to you, or did you go to them?
I went to them.
You went to them, so they were not actively seeking you out.
I went through them through a connection with someone else. I was a part of a diversity group, and another.
And so as far as equity goes, on that topic, I just want to tell the audience that, you know, it's very important that we find resources that are actually reaching out, and United Community Change is trying to do this with the corporate world, and the partnerships that we're trying to have with different corporate entities on how we can get them to actually come to where we are. If everything's on the south side, are you going to get to it? Like, is it going to get to you? Is that accessibility? Probably not. But the last thing I want to ask is like, well, what I noticed is that us as a youth up here, for the parents or the elders that came before us, what we are kind of interjecting what we feel is lacking for ourselves, for our own peers, and those that are less than, you know, younger than us. Is that, I mean, do you guys kind of resonate with that?
Say the question again.
Like, are we trying to implement for the community the things that we feel were lacking for us?
I think for me, it's an overcompensation. Like, if you sit down with me, you're gonna know being a dad is the best thing. And biblically, it should be a husband. But because of the traumatic experiences I've had from a little boy, being a father, taking care of my son, my wife would say, when you walk in the house and you kiss the boys before you kiss me. she grew up thinking, and I'm like, look, I love you the same, but like these little boys, like you don't know what their daddy really been through. And I think that I've overcompensated, and there's some balance because I was doing everything my dad didn't do, and I never focused on what the good stuff he actually did. So I was trying to not do the stuff he didn't do, and I wasn't focusing on just being a dad, you know?
Right. And I want to get the opinion from someone else real quick.
I feel like that what when you said that went back to something I learned as I got older, that our parents are just like us now, figuring it out.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of things that I could go back to my childhood and be like, I wish my parents did this. I wish my life was like this. You know, my parents aren't perfect. They have their own problems and things like a lot of people can resonate with. But I just felt like I wish that I had, more or something then, but as you get older, you're like, they gave you everything, And
Right, they did everything that they could. But such as we being leaders, we still do need that that baton passed down to us. It may not be from the people who are almost lacking, but the individuals who are in our position who did what we did when they were young, we need that support from them.
So are you asking, are we pretty much carrying that on? Are we showing
like
respect from them,
Right.
But that's a question, is the respect given back and forth?
Is it, right.
I mean, because I think it has to be a back and forth thing. Of course, I'm pretty sure we all grew up that way. You always respect those that come before you. So I am an implant here too.
Right.
So I definitely, as I learned the history of Springfield, as I learned people that I meet here, I have utmost respect for those who come before me here, especially as an implant here, and now I am from here. So I think that it is definitely important to carry this mantle on as the younger generation, but I think it's always important for it to be, it has to be new with the old. They have to understand that there's going to be some new stuff that comes on. Sometimes some things are a little bit more aggressive with this newer age, and some things weren't at that older stage, but I think you have to be able to meet on a mutual ground. So I think, that balance. But you definitely, at where we are, have to make sure we show that respect for those who came before us, who the history was before us, but, and respect has to be given both ways.
And that's the diversity as far as, within our own community, in multi-generational spaces, how we mend those together in order to really have the wonderful and huge effect that we need going forward for us and for them, passing that baton down. But this conversation was getting great. I would love to bring this whole panel again. If y'all want to stay for the second one, maybe, But I'm thankful for all of the opinions that you guys had. I would love to get your feedback. What you felt like this did for you, and if you would like to, come back. But I do want to let you guys know that we have a second panel. It's going to start here in a minute, and we're going to talk to some of our more corporate individuals, about these same topics, and they've been able to listen and hear, what we said, and they'll be able to take in consideration those thoughts. So, anybody have any last minute things that they would like to say about this discussion? I would like to hear from everyone. Just a little.
Yeah, I mean,
we start over here with that. Do you have anything,
I think the biggest thing is we have to stop letting conversations about us happen without us. And then also we can be the face but not the decision maker. So I want you out front, but you'll never be a vice president or CEO. And having those conversations, that's been the biggest thing. Me being an assistant director, the first Black assistant director in programs for the art in their history, I felt alone for a long time, and then understanding, man, I have a calling to be able to make other people who look like me comfortable to then be able to bring them up in management. So I say don't ever be afraid to really share that, because it gets exhausting. Like I think when you mentioned the token thing, like I don't got that energy, because I'm a feed off of that. I don't want to stay there. But sometimes I had to get myself in those spaces. If I wouldn't have got myself in that space, I wouldn't be sitting here today, because I know it's my calling. And so I agree with you. I believe I have to be able to bring somebody else with me, and I have to be able to get other people. So what I've talked about that with some of the coworkers I work with. I'm like, we need to be able to get into those spaces higher up. But if I wouldn't have gotten to where I got into, being that token Black female at that one point, but saying what I needed to say in that space, I wouldn't be where I am today, to be honest. But trust me, I said what I needed to say. And I got where I needed to go. I wasn't just going to sit there, but I agree.
It's going to be easy for you guys to recruit where you're at now, because you're there and you're staying, even though you may be the token one. But like I said,
but I'll let them know there ain't no token in this situation, dog. I'm the best available, and I'm not finna let y'all play me. Like, don't finesse me. I'm too smart for that. But it's that too, because the people who've gotten here, when I was here, they played that, and that's why they never got there, because I tried explaining to them, hey, the reason y'all here, because y'all letting them do, like, nah.
They don't get it.
Yeah,
And it's like,
because they're not putting value on you, they're putting value on your color in that position. And as individuals, we are valuable individuals. We have knowledge, you know, we have backgrounds, and we have history that qualifies us for where we sit outside of needing to diversify your organization.
Right.
It's like we let you sit at the table now. We didn't say to talk. You know, that's what
Right,
it
and
feels
I think
like.
it's important you have to learn to assert yourself. And I grew up with a mother and the father to learn to assert yourself. And I teach my daughters that. I have 3 daughters, and they learn to. I teach them that for themselves in high school and school, because they're the only ones who are going to speak up for themselves. And so when I say that, like, I know how to play the game. I know how to play the role. And sometimes it's even harder for us women, for us African women, and we have to do that
We have to
in order
play
to
the
get
game.
into those spaces. It may be a little, it's not us against you and saying, we just have to get ourselves in that space. I'm not saying I'm telling them that.
Right.
I'm just telling them
I
that
get
you
it.
know.
Yeah, you know,
I
you
know
gotta
in my head
move.
what y'all are doing, but you're not gonna do that to me and not hear what I have to say and
Exactly.
not use it. But it got, like I said, sometimes it gets us to where we need to be.
Yeah.
And we have to play that.
And you
to
don't
our
stay
advantage.
nowhere. Like, I feel valued, I feel seen by the CEO. Like, but you have to let me be me. When in my conversation with the CEO, I said, as long as y'all don't change how I talk, how I dress, I'm cool,
Yeah,
whatever.
that point.
So last minute, Sequoia, and then we go to April, and then we have Tony and Justin. So real quick, just 30 minutes, 30 seconds, and then we gotta get out of here.
I'm gonna switch gears for a second, be a little more serious. Something that I've been thinking about. I'm going to leave here and go to another funeral. I was at a funeral last week. I'm seeing on Facebook a lot of people are going. A lot of young people. Take care of yourself. Mental health. We didn't get deep into mental health here, but please take care of yourself. There are things that are going on in the media from everything. I mean, what name can I throw out there? That it is tough being a person of color and having these things go on, and it can drain your mental health. Talk to somebody. Get a friend that is a good confidant, someone you really can talk to, and really take care of yourself, physically and mentally. Emotionally, there are so many. The drugs out on the streets. If you need help in addiction, talk to somebody. I've had many people leave this world way too early and way too young because of, I'm gonna be honest, the fentanyl or whatever is out there. Take care of yourself.
Take care of yourself. April.
Don't just get a friend. See a therapist.
See a therapist. Do not let therapists scare the stigma behind it. Go talk to a therapist. Get help.
I would definitely like to capitalize on reaching back. So, looking at our parents, especially our grandparents. Clearly, we see that, eventually we all have the time, like we're all gonna go. And so if we don't ask those questions, talk to our elders, gain that knowledge, and also put it to our current knowledge, what they know is extremely beneficial to help us advance in our community, wherever we're at, especially in life. And so definitely don't be afraid to have those conversations. And then also I would just challenge our young people, middle-aged people, whatever age that you are, mentorship, but also getting mentorship for people who don't always look like you, who do not always identify similar to you, because there's so much richness in that experience and power as well with that help and support.
And I'm glad you said that, because there's many allies out there that want to help and support and benefit each individual, no matter what you look like, your disability, or what you're going through. They are out there. You just gotta be confident and open enough to receive what it is they're willing to give. Justin?
Tony, look at Tony.
Or Tony, did you go?
No, I ain't going.
Go ahead. 30 seconds, we got 30 seconds.
Alright, cool. I just wanted to touch, it was a statement made earlier in the conversation about, Justin, you actually said part of it, about how, the community or board can give a grant and think it's, okay, there's something for the black people. But I also want to interject that it's more so, we have to do better on our level together.
Yes.
Because how you think that the grant that Sequoia get might not help Zach, it should. And like Zach was saying, he didn't finish his statement, but I'll finish it for him. Not talking at as you. But
I give you.
you think we're the only race that don't intertwine with each other and all of that, and that's just coming from his and my experience. And how do we expect an outsider to know that if that's what their race does, or majority of their race does? They intertwine. If I got a resource, why not share it around? Versus, so they're expecting if I get his grant to Sequoia, he's connected with his people, so he's gonna make sure his people get what they need.
Right.
Versus ego being involved.
And I just want to interject into that about the grant, because usually when you get a grant, we're getting it for a specific program, so you really can't share it. But at the same time, we can be at the table together and get a grant together that's going to help each individual program together, so that we can go out together and do what we need to do for the community. And instead of getting one grant for support, we can get one grant for all of us. That's going to affect each and every one of the programs that we need to take care of, right?
Yeah. Lastly, I just thank all of you guys for your time today. I know you're all really busy. I appreciate all of you guys staying in this community, going hard with mentoring and all the things that you've been saying. Your voices matter. And just lastly, force the action. You know, maybe it doesn't make sense for Jordan Valley to connect with the Arc of the Ozarks, but force the action. We all look the same. We all in this community. It's not a lot of us. Just force the action. Force it. You know, find your tribe, like Wes Pratt always says. Whether that's the Multicultural Business Association, Arc of the Ozark, United Community Change, NAA. Find your tribe and, you know, connect more with Black organizations, Hispanic organizations in town, and that's how you'll start to find your community here. And to April's point, you know, it's okay to get a mentor that doesn't look like you.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think, I don't know if we had the conversation or not, but I wanted to put it out there, is that if something's not looking right for you, if you're not in that space, you don't have the opportunity to change it. I think it was Miss Christine. You know, if you're not in that space, you don't have the opportunity to change it.
Well, to his point, I'm the only Black person on the Big Brothers and Big Sisters board, and I'm not complaining.
So get yourself out there and get involved. And I wanted to let you guys know, back here we have all of our things that United Community Change is doing. I talked about some of them, but but what I didn't talk about was our connected events, and that is going to be once a month. So people like us, leaders like us, can come together at, you know, different venues in Springfield, get to know Springfield as a community, and also come together and have, you know, extended conversations like this on a personal level. So I would love for you guys to take a look at, you know, go to our Facebook page, you know, monitor it, and make sure it's not out there yet. Whenever it does go out there, that you engage and, you know, try to make time to come. UCCempowers.com is our website, and then Facebook.com, what's that, / UCC Empowers. So that's that. Thank you guys for joining us, and we look forward to our second panel here in a minute. Thank you.